honestly, yet what do they really have? So I think the market is looking at Bitcoin price and saying, okay, we're not worried about Bitcoin miners going out of business because Bitcoin is crashing. We're worried now about Bitcoin miners making a lot of money all of a sudden, and so they're going to grow. And maybe that
started with a whisper, just a few lines buried deep in a late-night Twitter thread. No blue checkmark, no press release, just screenshots, flight logs, and one photo that sent crypto Twitter into chaos. Elon Musk meeting with a payment systems team quietly linked to Stellar Development Foundation. At first, everyone dismissed it as clickbait. Another fake Musk is buying XRP rumor, right? But then, a pattern started forming. One that even the skeptics couldn't ignore. Tesla's blockchain division, which officially doesn't exist, suddenly listed cross-border transaction optimization on a recruitment page that vanished 48 hours later. X, formerly Twitter, updated its payment licensing docs to include multi-asset settlement compatibility. And right around the same week, on-chain data showed a surge of whale transactions involving XRP and XLM, moving through dormant wallets tied to legacy banking rails. Something was moving and fast. People laughed at first, but the deeper you dig, the more it looks less like a rumor and more like a pattern of positioning. Because here's the thing about Elon Musk, he doesn't follow hype, he builds systems. And the system he's building right now needs something bigger than Bitcoin. The missing link in Musk's payment empire. Everyone's been so focused on X, Twitter, becoming a super app, payments, banking, messaging, commerce, that they missed the real problem Musk's trying to solve. Global payment infrastructure is broken. It's slow, expensive, and dependent on intermediaries who move money like it's still 1985. Swift messages crawl across borders, settlement takes days, and every country has its own system locked behind regulatory walls. Musk doesn't want to build another PayPal. He wants to replace the rails. Remember what he said in 2023? X will be the global financial platform that connects everyone, instantly. To make that real, he needs more than licenses. He needs interoperability, a way to move value between systems, currencies, and continents in real time. That's where XRP and XLM come in. XRP runs on the XRP ledger, built for fast institutional settlements. XLM, or Stellar, powers open access financial inclusion, the people's side of the same coin. They're sister protocols, both born from the same codebase, both optimized for ISO 20022 compliance, the standard that the World Bank, IMF, and global banks are moving toward. If Musk's Everything app is meant to serve both Wall Street and the world, there's no better pair of rails than those two. XRP for institutional liquidity, XLM for user transactions. It's not a conspiracy, it's logic. The alignment no one's talking about. Here's where things get eerie. In late 2024, X Holdings, Musk's parent company for Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and X filed new trademarks in multiple countries. Hidden among the usual tech categories was one quiet line: financial transaction services using distributed ledger technology. Most people glossed over it, but crypto analysts didn't, because the filing was almost identical to Ripple's 2019 payment network patent, and the description matched Stellar's Anchor protocol system, the same mechanism that connects traditional banks to blockchain rails. Then, Musk dropped that one cryptic post. The future of money isn't crypto. It's speed, trust, and universal access. That's not a meme. That's a design philosophy, and it fits XRP and XLM perfectly. They're not meme coins or DeFi playgrounds. They're built for infrastructure, the plumbing beneath the next-generation global economy. And here's what's wild. While Bitcoin fights regulation and Ethereum drowns in gas fees, XRP and XLM quietly became ISO 20022 compatible, meaning they speak the same financial language as SWIFT, SEPA, and the central banks now upgrading their systems for real-time settlement. Musk knows that. He's not guessing. He's been obsessed with payments since the original PayPal. But this time, he's not limited by the banking system. He's building outside it. From Mars to money, why Musk needs a global rail. Musk has one goal that ties all his projects together: sustainability beyond Earth. That's not just about rockets. It's about systems, communication, transport, energy, and money that work anywhere, for anyone. How do you create a Mars economy when Earth's financial systems can't even sync a wire transfer on a weekend? You need digital value transfer that doesn't rely on borders, governments, or third-party middlemen. You need a universal settlement layer. That's what XRP and XLM represent. They're not just coins, they're bridges. XRP connects banks, payment providers, and liquidity networks. XLM connects people, wallets, and real-world assets. Together, they create a two-tier system that can handle everything from a billion-dollar central bank transaction to a $5 remittance from a farmer in Ghana. That's exactly the kind of infrastructure Musk's Everything app needs. Not speculative, not flashy, just frictionless. And here's the part that few realize. Both XRP and XLM networks can integrate AI-driven routing, meaning Musk's own company, XAI, could optimize payment paths dynamically, choosing the fastest, cheapest, and most secure settlement channels in real time. That's not science fiction. That's how the future of finance actually looks. AI managing liquidity through tokenized systems. The signs are everywhere, if you know where to look. When you start putting the puzzle together, the timing feels too perfect to ignore. SpaceX accepted crypto payments for its Starlink division last year, quietly testing low-latency, off-world transaction settlement through satellite nodes. Ripple partnered with MasterCard and the World Bank's remittance projects, the exact kind of cross-border system X, Twitter, would need to settle global payments. Stellar collaborated with MoneyGram and Circle, two major players Musk has been reportedly in talks with since X began applying for U.S. money transmission licenses. And while everyone debates whether he likes crypto, Musk keeps buying infrastructure companies, X.AI, Grok, X Payments, all perfectly positioned to merge AI, data, and financial rails under one digital roof. So when people ask, is Elon Musk buying XRP and XLM? The answer might not be literal. He doesn't need to hold the coins. He's buying the system they represent. He's aligning his empire with the technological foundation that these two ledgers already built. You can feel it. Something big is shifting. We've gone from tweets about Dogecoin to boardroom conversations about the architecture of global settlement. And if Elon Musk is positioning himself around XRP and XLM, not as currencies, but as rails, then we're not talking about another crypto pump. We're talking about a complete rewrite of the world's financial infrastructure. When Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into X, everyone thought he'd just rebrand it, add a few AI tools, maybe toss in a paywall. But that wasn't the plan. Musk wasn't buying a social media platform. He was buying a digital distribution network, one that could evolve into a global payments and data infrastructure. Every move since then has been about building a new kind of financial operating system, one that doesn't rely on legacy banking rails, but instead connects directly to blockchain networks capable of moving value faster than any existing settlement layer. And if you watch closely, you'll see that every piece Musk has put on the board lines up with XRP and XLM's design principles. The infrastructure of X. Let's start with what we know. Over the last year, X Payments LLC quietly secured money transmitter licenses in nearly a dozen U.S. states. Not a headline grabber, but for those who understand financial infrastructure, it's the digital equivalent of laying track before launching a high-speed train. At the same time, Tesla has been integrating AI-driven transaction routing systems, not for retail crypto payments, but for machine-to-machine communication. Think about that. Electric vehicles paying for charging, tolls, or even data access without human input. The same concept Musk's been pushing through his Neuralink and Starlink projects, networks of autonomous systems that need frictionless settlement. What kind of digital asset layer supports that? Not Bitcoin, not Ethereum. You need something that settles in seconds, costs fractions of a cent, and is compliant with global data and financial messaging standards like ISO 20022. That's XRP and XLM. XRP. Built for high-speed institutional settlement, banking-grade liquidity. XLM. Built for person-to-person and microtransaction systems, human-level accessibility. Two sides of the same architecture, exactly what an everything app like X would need to bridge commerce from corporations down to individuals. The quiet partnerships that point to something bigger. You can learn more about Musk's plans not from what he says, but from who he partners with. Let's look at a few breadcrumbs. MoneyGram, a longtime Stellar partner, was spotted in early meetings with X's payment licensing team. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you realize that MoneyGram's new digital settlement rail was literally built on Stellar, it starts to look like strategic alignment. Ripple's integration with MasterCard's cross-border services program, announced mid-2024, connects XRP's liquidity model directly to the same correspondent banking system the World Bank and IMF use for remittances. Starlink, Musk's global satellite internet provider, has been testing low-latency crypto nodes to transmit transactions even in offline regions. A perfect fit for Stellar's mission of borderless, low-bandwidth payments. Put it together, Stellar handles real-world accessibility, global, low-cost payments. Ripple handles institutional liquidity, bank-to-bank transfers. Musk owns the network infrastructure to connect them both. That's not random, that's system design. Why Musk would choose XRP and XLM? Musk doesn't like waste. He doesn't reinvent what already works. He repurposes it. XRP and XLM are battle-tested, compliant, and technically elegant. They've already done what every new crypto project dreams of doing. Prove that you can move money anywhere in the world nearly instantly. But here's what most people miss. It's not just about speed. It's about interoperability. The ISO 20022 standard isn't a crypto fad. It's the new global language of financial messaging. Every central bank, clearinghouse, and international remittance system is adopting it. And guess which networks were built to natively support it? Ripple, XRP, Stellar, XLM. That means these networks can communicate with banks, payment processors, and institutions without translation layers, something no other blockchain can currently do at scale. So if Musk wants X to become the world's financial platform, capable of moving value across borders, between AI agents, or even between planets, think Starlink plus Mars economy, then XRP and XLM are the logical choices. They're not just coins, they're protocols for trust. Elon's real target, the friction in finance. Musk has always hated inefficiency. Whether it's rockets, cars, or social media, his mission is to strip away what slows things down. When you zoom out, global finance is one of the slowest, most friction-filled systems on Earth. Transfers can take days, cost a fortune, and require layers of intermediaries. But imagine if your digital identity, your money, your assets, everything, could move seamlessly across systems without asking for permission from a central gatekeeper. That's the endgame. Not just sending money on X, but connecting the entire financial graph of humanity. That's where XRP and XLM fit in perfectly. They don't compete with banks, they connect them. They don't replace fiat, they translate it. It's the same design philosophy Musk has used for decades. Build bridges, not barriers. PayPal tried to digitize payments. X wants to digitize settlement itself. And that leap requires rails that can support instant messaging, multi-asset interoperability, and regulatory compliance. All things Ripple and Stellar have already mastered. The network that never sleeps. Here's where it gets wild. Starlink already covers over 60 countries with low latency, always-on internet. Imagine pairing that with Stellar's open-source payment network. Nodes running on satellites, transactions confirmed from orbit, borderless money literally above the borders. Then connect that to RippleNet, the institutional backbone that already works with banks, governments, and payment providers worldwide. Now you've got the two pieces of the same puzzle. Stellar handles the people layer, microtransactions, remittances, inclusivity. Ripple handles the institutional layer, banks, liquidity, enterprise-grade transactions. And X sits in the middle, the user interface that lets anyone, anywhere, move value instantly. That's not just a product. That's a financial operating system for the planet. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Is Elon Musk actually buying XRP or XLM? We don't have proof, and we probably never will. But think about this. Musk doesn't make small moves. When he commits to a technology, he goes all in. He didn't just buy cars, he built Tesla. He didn't just use rockets, he built SpaceX. He didn't just use social media, he turned it into a financial platform. So if he's building the future of payments and XRP and XLM already represent the rails he needs, Does he really need to buy them? Or is he buying the ecosystem, the infrastructure, the licenses, the access that make them impossible to ignore? This isn't about market speculation anymore. It's about alignment of technology, ideology, and timing. Because the same man who made electric cars mainstream and reusable rockets possible is now aiming at the slowest, most outdated system on Earth, money itself. And if XRP and XLM are the rails he chooses to run it on, everything from banks to governments will have to follow. The transition to ISO 20022, the new global financial messaging standard, isn't just an upgrade. It's a migration into an era where money becomes data, and data becomes money. And the few digital assets that were built for this exact shift, XRP, XLM, XDC, QNT, ALGO, and IOTA, are about to sit at the heart of the new system. But let's focus on the two that matter most right now, XRP and XLM, because that's where Musk's strategy intersects perfectly with the goals of the global financial elite. From swift to smart, the old guard is dying. For decades, global money transfers have relied on the SWIFT network, a messaging system that's slow, costly, and outdated. Every cross-border transaction goes through layers of correspondent banks, compliance checks, and reconciliation steps. It's inefficient by design, it keeps middlemen in power. But that model is collapsing. SWIFT itself announced that it's migrating fully to ISO 20022, and what's more shocking, the World Bank, IMF, and BIS Innovation Hub are already testing settlement systems that use tokenized assets and distributed ledgers instead of traditional accounts. That's not theory, that's public documentation. And guess which ledgers they're testing? Ripple and Stellar. Ripple has been working with central banks on CBDC pilots, central bank digital currencies. Stellar has been quietly integrating with global remittance platforms like MoneyGram and Circle, USDC. In other words, these networks already sit inside the transition that the global financial architecture is making. And Elon Musk, with X, Starlink, Tesla, and Neuralink, is building the digital skin that connects it all. XRP and XLM, the chosen rails. Why do these two networks fit perfectly into Musk's vision and the IMF's? Because they represent the two halves of the same system. XRP, institutional-grade liquidity for banks, governments, and corporations. XLM, open, peer-to-peer access for people, small businesses, and digital applications. They're mirrors, both built from the same original codebase, but designed for different purposes. Ripple went corporate. Stellar went humanitarian. Now imagine Musk, whose companies touch both sides of that spectrum. He builds rockets and satellites for governments, but he also builds cars, phones, and social apps for everyday people. That's why his ecosystem needs both XRP and XLM, one to integrate with institutional money systems, and one to connect directly to the global population. It's the same structure that the World Bank and IMF are transitioning toward: interoperable settlement layers that unify banks, fintechs, and retail users under one standard. And the key that unlocks it? ISO 20022 compliance. Only XRP and XLM have that native compatibility. They don't need middleware or conversions. They're already speaking the new financial language. Elon's advantage: the infrastructure nobody else has. Let's be honest, the World Bank and IMF can create standards all day, but they don't control infrastructure. They rely on private innovators to actually build the systems that make global connectivity possible. That's where Musk comes in. He already owns the world's most distributed satellite network, Starlink, the most widely adopted digital platform, X, and soon, through XAI, one of the most powerful financial data engines. Combine those and you get a real-time, always-connected, AI-driven settlement grid. Now think about it, what if that grid runs on Ripple and Stellar? X's interface becomes the front-end wallet. Starlink becomes the global node network. XRP and XLM become the liquidity and transfer rails. That's a fully autonomous, borderless financial ecosystem. And it's exactly what the World Bank has been writing about in its policy frameworks for digital public infrastructure. In other words, Musk isn't competing with the global system. He's building the infrastructure it needs to survive. The end of Bitcoin's reign. Now, here's where everything changes. Bitcoin will always have historical value, the first mover, the digital gold, but it was never built to process millions of transactions per second, or to comply with international financial standards. The global reset won't be built on speculation or proof-of-work mining. It'll be built on utility, interoperability, and compliance. And when central banks, corporations, and fintech start transacting directly on ISO 20022 rails, Bitcoin won't be invited to the table. It's not compliant. It's not efficient. It's not scalable. That's why the World Bank, IMF, and even private institutions like MasterCard, SWIFT, and Visa have been quietly shifting their attention to networks like RippleNet and Stellar, because those systems can actually settle real money in real time under real regulations. So when people laugh at the idea of Musk buying XRP or XLM, they're missing the point. He doesn't have to buy coins. He's positioning himself inside the infrastructure that the coins were built to power. Everything converges. This is where it all comes together. The World Bank pushes global adoption of ISO 20022. The IMF pilots interoperability frameworks for CBDCs. The BIS builds the blueprint for digital asset regulation. Musk builds the hardware and platforms that make it accessible to everyone. XRP and XLM run as the underlying liquidity and messaging rails. That's not conspiracy, that's convergence. And it's already happening faster than anyone expected. By 2026, over 90% of cross-border payments will be ISO 20022 native. By 2030, over half the world's GDP could be tokenized. When that moment arrives, the people holding speculative assets will scramble, but those holding utility assets like XRP and XLM will be positioned right where the money actually moves. Two assets are positioned perfectly, XRP and XLM. Why? Because they're not trying to destroy the system, they're upgrading it. They're the quiet language that the new world economy will use to talk to itself. Musk knows it. The World Bank knows it. And slowly, the institutions you thought would never touch crypto are building on it. That's why this story about Elon Musk buying XRP and XLM isn't just about accumulation. It's about integration. He's wiring the system piece by piece. Starlink to connect the planet, X to act as the global interface, and digital assets like XRP and XLM to move value instantly, across every border, without friction. When people laugh, I just think they laughed at the internet too. They laughed at electric cars. They laughed at reusable rockets. They always laugh until it's too late to catch up. And that's where we are right now. Everyone's still staring at the red candles, arguing about whether the bull run is delayed or dead, while the infrastructure of the next economy is already online. It's like trying to measure the future with a ruler from the past. You can't, because this isn't about price anymore. It's about positioning. When the banks flip the switch to full ISO 20022 messaging, when CBDCs start moving over real distributed ledgers, and when digital identity merges with your financial access, guess which networks will already be live, liquid, and ready? Yeah. XRP and XLM. So whether you believe in Musk or not, whether you think he's buying the tokens or just building around them, the result is the same. The rails are being built. The connection points are forming. And those who see it early will ride the wave while everyone else is still asking what happened. If you're still here, you're not watching for hype, you're watching for truth. So here's your challenge. Don't just scroll away. Take a second to think about what role you want to play in this new system. Observer or participant. Drop a comment right now. I see it coming, because if you do, you're already ahead of 99% of the world. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because what's coming next will change everything you thought you knew about money, power, and control, and this channel will be right here when it happens.